And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Sobros Network proudly brings to you some in-depth movie discussion with our resident film critic, Brandon Vick.
Happy evening, everyone. The Vick's Flicks podcast is here.
Welcome back for another episode of the Vick's Flicks podcast right here on the Nashville Movie Dispatch. I'll be your host for the show, the EIC at SobrosNetwork.com, contributor at Nashville Movie Dispatch, Big Natural Stoney Keeley. You can follow me on Twitter at Stoney Keeley. Collectively, we are at Sobros Network on all major social media platforms. And you can check out all of our work at NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. Joined, as usual, by the star of the show himself, the man whose namesake it bears, member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association, board member of the Music City Film Critics Association. He is our resident film critic, Mr. Big Shot himself, Brandon Vick. Brandon, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing just fine.
We crammed this one in, didn't we? Monday
We did.
release.
It took a lot of...
The movie just came out a few days ago.
We
and
all came together here and decided we are going to get this one...
coordinated.
We're going to get this one hammered out. Can I just say that I'm still kind of coming down from a high of... Before on the main road, you have to take a left to get to your house. And
Yeah.
I never know if I'm going to be on a head-on collision, if I'm going to get sideswiped.
Yeah.
I never know. And my wife and I were talking about this the other night because I was coming back this way.
Yeah.
And two cars were very
It happens all the
brave.
time. Yeah.
And she's like, I hate that turn. I'm like, me too. I was like, and she's like, I hate it at night. I'm like, I don't mind it at night because I can see lights. Like I can see
you
if
can see
someone's
the
coming.
glow.
I'm like, but during the day,
Yeah.
good luck because all of a sudden you'll see like this blue hood come over.
Yep.
And sometimes I turn and I just close my eyes.
Same here.
Let's just see what happens.
That's something.
I'm coming down from that.
The people of the area have been fighting with the city about for a long time. Is
Getting
to try and get
a
that
real
hill
light
cut
or
down.
something. Oh.
They don't want to put a light there because of the hill.
Yeah,
They're afraid it's going
touche.
to cause accidents because
No.
people are going to come flying up the hill.
You're right.
Get to the top of
And
it, and
stop.
boom, there's a line
Yeah,
of stopped traffic there.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
they're trying to get them to like flatten the hill there, and the best the city could do was add a big mirror on the telephone pole across the street where I can't even see.
I have never noticed that in my life.
Yeah.
I have never noticed that.
It's bad. You know, when I go out, my mom lives out in the Gladeville area. When I go to her house or when I go to the dump, I will not turn left onto Central Pike out of there. I turn right
and then
and go up and turn around and come back.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people that turn into the church parking lot there and go around the church because you come out on the other side on top of the hill and you have a better vantage point. It's safer, right? Apparently that's illegal. You can't do that, and the cops pull people over for it all the time. And it's just like...
When they cut through the church?
Yeah. It's like,
wow.
These pigs... No, I'm sorry. That's too
careful,
far for this show.
Careful.
But they're feasting. Like, this is set up to not favor the people.
What I heard is you want to defund the police. That's what I heard.
Defund the Mount Juliet police because we can't get this hill thing sorted out.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But I will
There's
say...
a wreck there once a week.
There has to be.
Yeah.
I will say, though, whenever you think, like, man, I'm numb to the world, take that turn.
Yeah.
Just do it once. Take that turn.
There really are times when I roll my window down to listen. That's how bad it is.
Damn.
I listen to hear
yet.
if anything's coming, and if it's not coming, I smash on the gas and go as quickly as I can in case something comes flying over the hill because they can't stop in time. So I'm like in my Altima just squealing tires out of this thing, and then I'm trying to like regain control.
It does become like a Fast and Furious. Like if you think you've got the opening, you take it.
Yeah.
And then don't look back.
We are living our lives a quarter mile at a time out here.
Anybody who's made that turn, they know.
It's bad. You guys could go, if you go to the stop sign, you could make a left and cut around and go that way if you wanted.
Fuck that. I'm going for it.
Just okay.
I'm closing my eyes and I'm taking a left.
That's what my wife does. My wife just pulls out in front of
Because let me tell you, the moment I'm hit, I'm getting out, I'm sitting on that road, I'm holding my neck until somebody comes and gets me, and then I'll sue whoever it was.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my hope.
The people that live across the street from that intersection are not very happy with it either.
Well, I would imagine not.
Yeah.
That's probably where most of the wrecks end up.
Yeah, they're like, there's wrecks in our front yard every week.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so stupid.
I am just amazed. And I was thinking about it today when I was turning, because there's a point where like 2 cars go, and there's just enough gap where you think you can, and then another car comes, and you're like, okay, well, I'll wait. And then this person's waiting too, and you're both scared shitless. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So anyway, we've got a guest today.
We've almost been hit at least 3 or 4 times.
I'm shocked it's not more.
You know what really gets me is because people fly down Central Pike like it's nothing. So I will turn my turn signal on coming back from the Gladeville side.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'm turning right before I go up the hill to let whoever's behind me know, hey, you come over this hill, I'm going to be stopped, slowing down to turn in. Yeah. And they just don't pay attention. And there's been, I can't tell you how many times I've been turning and I just see headlights just closing in from the back. And I'm like, oh God, this is it.
They're going to be on top of your Altima.
And the times like I've had to like run off the road to avoid them. And then I almost hit the people that are trying to turn out. I'm like, this is such a mess. It's such a mess. And the city won't do a damn thing about it.
Well, they put a mirror up.
Touche. The whole area is probably going to be flattened soon anyway. Flattened soon because they're going to build another exit off of I-40 right there. And all that. Rumor has it on our local politics podcast here, the Vick's Flicks podcast.
Yeah.
All of the people on Central Pike through there are selling because that's all going to be rezoned as commercial. That's going to be like hotels and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, God.
And the city's going to turn into the ghetto before long.
You think so?
It's going to be like Hickory Hollow.
Oh, I heard they're making a comeback.
They wanted Mount Juliet to be the next Cool Springs.
Yes, that was the word for years and years.
Instead there's just carjackings in Providence.
Yeah.
So,
and I will say that Regal Providence needs help.
Yeah, that's where I saw Mickey 17, the movie we're here to talk about today.
I want to talk about that new Rooms to Go would made a beautiful movie theater.
It would have, yeah.
Next to BJ's.
But you're right, Brandon. We do have a guest. Fresh off of our Oscars live stream. Our buddy Brett is back. Brett, how are you doing today?
Hello.
Did you have any trouble getting
How do you feel about that turn?
I know what you're talking about. I actually feel like my ride was kind of boring. But I do know what it was getting dark, so I could see the headlights. So I had some level, I cheated a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, if you will. I will say, I remember as a kid, my dad got a ticket for pulling through like a gas station parking lot to get around like a red light or something.
I had no idea. Because,
that is a thing.
Because out in Hermitage, they do the same thing where sometimes they'll cut through the gas station so you don't have to wait at the light and you can keep going towards, what's that road where the Target and everything else is, Kohl's and all that, you know? You can take it all the way to downtown. But I had no idea that you would actually get like a ticket for it.
I think it just has to do with you're creating kind of an unnatural, like you're jumping in front of somebody as they're turning or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, or or they just have their quota of arrests to make.
Pigs.
I do feel like there's legs here for like conspiracy theory about Mount Juliet police.
I think we could defund them.
I'm gonna dig into it as a journalist.
And I feel like we probably know. At one time, I know that we knew some individuals that were on the police force with Mount Juliet because they went to high school with us. So
I know one of them.
That adds a level of intrigue.
I don't think he remembers me, but I know him. Like,
even better.
I remember him.
Even better.
Yeah, I think I think people teased him a lot, but he's probably got the last laugh on that. But
be careful. You're being monitored now.
I know. I can't say anything more.
Well, but in fairness, Brandon and I live in Davidson County, so
correct
martial law. Yeah. I don't even know what that means.
We're from the city.
That's right.
We are already in the ghetto.
You hillbillies, we're in the city. Carjackings ain't shit to us. I had a man carry my child out of the house once. So, carjackings. Who cares?
Yeah, you're right. A soft ass Hicks out here in Mount Juliet. Yeah.
God.
But hey, the bright side of that part of town,
Ours?
Right here at the murder
Wilson County
intersection.
one. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Beautiful wildlife.
Oh, that's true.
You will turn and see an entire family of deer right there.
I did tonight.
What I hear is there's either already been or there's a good chance for there to be a 3-party collision.
Yes.
2 cars and a deer.
Absolutely.
That is correct. Yes.
That would be something.
That is nice. And if you're lucky to get through all that, you can go to At Home and shop. So that's pretty damn good.
All right. Well, we are here to talk about Mickey 17 tonight. You don't have to see Mickey 1 through 16 to get this one.
I saw someone ask that on social media.
And it's too easy of a joke.
It is, but that's all right.
I didn't see it on Letterboxd, so I thought, I might be in the clear on this one.
I just want to say,
I just saw it once.
I think Stoney has a knack for these like one-liner Letterboxd reviews because some people on there are just good at them, and I think you've got it.
Did
that's
you
my
do
groove.
One?
The last one I did was for Wicked.
Yes.
My favorite one he's done, which I feel like didn't get enough attention, was for Nosferatu. He said you versus the guy she tells you not to worry about, which is perfect for that movie. That is that movie.
It actually is. It speaks a lot of truth.
So I'm glad I didn't leave my review then because I would have been mocked for someone else making the joke.
I mean, I've only seen it
Else.
once. I've only saw it once, but then I'm like, okay, I get it. Which, well, we'll get into it.
I feel like you said it tighter than the person who said it there. Yeah. Like they said it in an awkward way.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I appreciate that. So this film is directed by Bong Joon-ho. Synopsis courtesy of Letterboxd. The unlikely hero Mickey Barnes finds himself in the extraordinary circumstance of working for an employer who demands the ultimate commitment to the job to die for a living. So guys, let's start this off. What do y'all think Bong Joon-ho thinks of capitalism?
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm not going just off of Mickey 17, but perhaps maybe everything he's done, I think he could despise it.
Maybe. I don't. Do you think that message came across in this film at all?
He's really good at hammering that home.
Yeah, he did.
Yes, a little bit of a theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Where do you guys want to start? I've got a spot. I don't want to put that pressure on y'all.
Well, listen. Can I just start with Robert Pattinson?
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah.
I love his choice in roles.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is right up there with the best of them.
I do too.
And I told Brett, we got to see it in IMAX a few nights ago, that I read that he based his voice off of Steve Buscemi in Fargo.
Is that right?
Yes.
How about that?
And I didn't read it, but it was brought up to Steve Buscemi, and I think he said something along the lines of like that he was like kind of blown away and that he was honored. But the whole time I watched it, I could not get Steve Buscemi out of my head.
You should have waited. You should have waited to look that up. So I think this is interesting because as our buddy Sean Atkins of 615 Film put in our Slack group, it's like it doesn't seem like this is the movie they were marketing. And I could kind of see where if you're going in for quirky, weird, funny sci-fi, and then you get this sort of allegorical reflection of our politics and society, it might not be for everybody. And like you said, Brandon, Bong Joon-ho, he's not mincing words. He hammers what he wants to say home in this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Did the marketing help or hurt your perceptions of the film when you kind of realized this probably isn't just simple quirky sci-fi humor?
It didn't throw me off too much in that I feel like all along it was kind of a question of what is this going to be. When I first saw the trailer, I think maybe even not recognizing that it was Bong Joon-ho the first time, you think it's one thing disconnected from him, but then you see his name, it's like, oh, well, this is going to go deeper than, it's not just going to be kind of a zany comedy about this guy that dies over and over.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was a little bit like, I don't really know what the point is going to be going in, but I know there will be something beyond just what we see on the surface.
Yeah, and to kind of build off that, if if you're wanting, which I totally get why he didn't, but I think, his last one was Parasite, which was the Oscar hit and one of the best films.
Well, not one that I would call comedic or quirky.
Right. So, if you're wanting that and you're thinking, oh, what happened? But if you are familiar and you've seen especially his other English language films, that Snowpiercer and I think it's is it Okja? OKJA. It has I think it's Okja. And
that sounds right.
Can you, if you say it more, can you make sure to say it like that every time?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
And then this one falls in line with those other two. And there's always something beneath the surface of those films. I think Snowpiercer is, that's not really a comedy, but it is something that, the themes, they run parallel through everything, all the way leading up to
There's a lot of
Mickey
folks,
17.
Yeah, a lot of folks on Letterboxd were bringing up Snowpiercer, talking about Mickey 17.
And I read some stuff. I never read really reviews before I see a movie, but I will read some after. And I saw where a lot of people were kind of like, he was kind of rehashing things, ideas, themes from Snowpiercer and Okja. But
thank you.
But I also kind of feel like I kind of see it as him building off of those and making something that I felt like I thought was ingenious sci-fi. It's a fantastic satire.
Yes.
It's also very funny. But I didn't see it as him kind of recycling things. I felt like it was more of a progression of just the way that culture and society has become. And this is what, Snowpiercer and stuff talks about, is obviously still ongoing as far as especially dealing with class. But I also think that there's a lot of things in this film that, America, look in the mirror.
Yeah. Brett, were you about to say
something?
I
was just going to say, I saw someone call it the Bong Joon-ho Eat the Rich universe, which I feel like that is how it fits.
Yes, it is.
I have, this was from Twitter. I saw this. This was an ad. So somebody actually tweeted this and then paid money for more people to read it. Let me save you all hours of your life. Do not watch Mickey 17 as Ruffalo mocks Trump and his base while cynically portraying religious faith as a Nazi cult. Do not watch any movie with scumbag Mark Ruffalo ever again. At Ben Shapiro, I did the movie preview for you. You don't have to watch it now. Again, somebody tweeted that and then said, I'm going to run this as an ad for more people to see it.
It works because I saw it earlier today.
And so that, to me, is where I think I look at it and I say, yeah, there's a crowd of people that aren't going to take too kindly to this movie being so on the nose about it.
But he recognized it, didn't he?
Oh, well,
He did recognize it.
But I think, like, to the point earlier about this not being the movie that's marketed.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how that affects your enjoyment of the film or what, or if this is, like, were they trying to pull a gotcha on conservative people? And
I'll be honest, I'm not, I can't really relate to that person who wrote that tweet, but I'm kind of in the camp of what Brett was saying. Like, rather whatever kind of story you think it is, whatever kind of movie it's being marketing as, I feel like if you know Bong Joon-ho, then you kind of know what the deal is, and that it's not everything is as it appears.
Yeah.
There's always something. There is always a message with his films. So the average moviegoer, sure, but they're not hiding his name like they hide Mel Gibson in Flight Risk.
Yeah.
Like, it's there. You love it or hate it, but you know what he's doing. I think if you're unfamiliar with him, then that's your fault.
Is it fair then for that sort of sentiment to impact a film's rating on sites like Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd and stuff like that?
Because people they're putting their own personal either, politics into stuff instead of actually looking at it and saying, like, isn't that free speech? Isn't that's what we're doing here? Mm-hmm. That's what that's what's crazy to me is that's what art has always done. You can love it or hate it. It's just the same way of Ben Shapiro's company putting out movies. I mean, they have the right to put out movies. Yeah. And if you go see it, then you have an opinion about it. This guy did, that's fine. But I think the only thing I thought was kind of funny is that he recognized what's going on. Which
he got it.
Which Bong is not. Which Bong is not hiding it.
No,
like you said, it is on the nose, and that it can divide audiences if you think you're going to see a zany, sci-fi movie where But I'm sorry, I also feel like as a moviegoer, I want more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say my take on it is, they're satirizing the church in the United States that has supported current conservative politics.
Yeah.
And as someone who in many ways is linked to that group of people, mm-hmm. though there are many things, I think the individual that tweeted that I would disagree with them about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the value is in a moment like that, you can either say, oh, this is hitting my way, so I'm just going to shut it down completely. Mm-hmm. Or you can say, what are the real criticisms that are being made here that are legitimate and that have value? And I mean, I think for all of us, just initially what I know of, that's overall what this movie does very well is actually what it's saying seriously about life and people and the way we interact with one another.
When we were talking about this just a little bit after the movie, is that, I think the heart of it is you're watching the total disregard for someone's life.
Yeah.
And yes, he signed up for the job as an expendable in the movie, but as the way that he's handled in probably the first 2 times he's air quotes printed out, and then you see how much care they don't give the more Mickeys start being produced. And there's a real, I thought, beautiful moment on one of the tests, basically, they're doing on one of the Mickeys. And they're kind of celebrating and taking pictures. But in the background, Robert Pattinson's being held by Naomi Ackie's character. Because there is someone that's suffering. And I think as a society, in this case, in this scene, they literally have their backs turned to it. It's the same way as, and this is in the preview of his hand gets cut off and people are eating and watching go by and it's no big deal.
Yeah.
There's,
mm-hmm.
I went back and like I said, I read a couple of reviews and there's one from Alison Wilmore that's published in Vulture and New York Magazine. And I read this and was I feel like if I walked out and could try and put it in any way, I think this would be it, or it's close. The movie's more interested in why certain people are so drawn to authoritarian showmen, and most cuttingly, what makes everyone else tolerate that kind of rule just to get by. Mickey 17 does sometimes feel like it's cycling and reprinting aspects of, as I've talked about, Bong's earlier films instead of just riffing on his favorite themes. But they said in particular the native inhabitants of that new planet, which look like a cross between a giant woodlice and star-nosed moles, but yet are capable of being cute. It kind of brings to mind the Okja's super pigs. But she goes on and says, what does feel fresh is the film's interrogation into what makes someone believe they deserve to be mistreated, and internalizing not just that it's inevitable that some people must live lives shorn of dignity and filled with suffering, but that they're one of those people. By showing that even the most resigned of sci-fi doormats can decide to stand up for himself, Mickey 17 ends up on a more hopeful note than the rest of Bong's films. And I really, I think if I could, I think that kind of sets that film, or it describes that film perfectly on the normalism, that things that shouldn't be, the things that we're willing to accept when we shouldn't be. There's this whole thing with Robert Pattinson's character Mickey, where when he was a kid, and about this guilt, and he thinks this is his punishment, And it's such a there's such an absence of self-worth. But I do think it's also, I think that same the absence of self-worth is there in who I think is fantastic, in Mark Ruffalo's character too. And Toni Collette plays his wife, and she's kind of whispering, kind of keeping him on track, which, I mean, I saw it as her kind of the, she's kind of the puppeteer and he's the puppet.
And similar qualities with the lead singer of Disturbed, who is his right-hand man.
That
as well.
is correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Was that it?
No, that was at Vulture,
yeah.
New York. I really liked that part.
What did you guys think of Mark Ruffalo's performance? Because I saw there's a lot of people that are critical of it being basically a Donald Trump parody, like an impression, a little on the nose, like a lot of other aspects of the film. I did think at one point, specifically at the dinner scene, when like his mannerisms, the way he's speaking, I'm like, oh my God, this is Trump. But it didn't, I wouldn't say that it really detracted from the performance, I wouldn't think. I mean, I think Mark Ruffalo's good in just about anything that he does. So I was a fan.
I know
him and Toni Collette together.
Yeah, I know Brett has not seen it yet, but this to me is such a superb continuation from his performance in Poor Things.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So
yeah,
I thought it was great. We were talking about where the way he uses his mouth and the way he pronounces things.
It's so weird.
But he does it is, but it's so like you're transfixed on it.
You needed to see it in every scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I can, this is there was an IndieWire piece where talking about Bong Joon-ho was talking about like the political inspirations and stuff, because I was apparently this was written, which is why a lot of the a portion of Mickey 17 deals with this virus, and it was written right after in 2021, so right after COVID and everything had hit. But Bong said, he's like, I would be lying if I say that we weren't thinking of the political context and the political atmosphere when creating this. But he said when he showed Ruffalo videos and photos of a particular Korean politician, Ruffalo had showed him photos of an American governor from back in the day. And he says we weren't really focusing on serious heavy dictators, which keep in mind this is in 2021. We were actually just focusing on ridiculous, clownish politicians and the ridiculous things that they do. And
there you go.
That's truth.
It's like a sort of amalgamation of several different people.
Yeah.
That's where I was thinking is, I think, again, it's one of those things, you see what you want to see. So if you walk in like the person who shared that thing and you're looking to be offended, you immediately say, oh, this is all about making fun of our president now.
Yeah.
But I saw it more as, let's take these like weird quirks that a lot of leaders have that people overlook because they're in power. And I mean, you said it, but him, like the way he acted with his mouth was like, can we give the best, like the MVP of the movie to his mouth?
Like, best mouth
but here's the thing,
at the Oscars next year.
There is this ridiculousness, but also this showmanship and this like fragile ego. And yes, you can apply it to maybe the president now, but there's also like this whole like we're going to leave Earth in ruins. Where can we go? I think that's a little bit of a Musk thing too. I think there's also stuff with like, to me, with Bezos, like it's capitalism, but there's also like they're picking out these things because of just like sometimes you're not looking at it through this kind of lens, and I think sometimes the natural reaction is to kind of laugh, but at a certain point it's not funny anymore, and it is, and I think Mickey 17 borders on that. I think it's hilarious. But there is tragedy in it, and sometimes it's in the same damn scene.
Yeah.
That same thing on the IndieWire about the political one. I just thought it was kind of funny where Bonga said we had heard of stories of Hitler when he was in Vienna, and he got offended by certain things, and the culminating into other things, not to justify the horrible things that politicians do, but when you go through a lot of trauma or you feel this inferiority complex against something and you channel it in that wrong direction, you end up becoming a horrible person and political leader. If you think about Marshall, we don't really know his history, but we can tell that he has a very low sense of self-worth. And that's where I think kind of Toni Collette is kind of building. She's his reassurance of this is what you're supposed to be.
It
doing.
almost in that context feels like there's a sort of spectrum of that, losing that sense of self-worth between potential outcomes being Mickey 17 and one being I've already forgotten his name, Mark Ruffalo's character, Marshall. Yeah. So that is an interesting nugget. Before I forget, while we're still talking about this guy's tweet, is there a movie take that gets you guys so fired up that you would tweet something and then run an ad on it to make sure more people saw it?
I'm too cheap.
This is a good question. I'm sure that there are things. Yeah. I'm not sure I have it off the top of my head, but
I don't think it's a movie. I think I would run an ad about how Rami Malek doesn't deserve an Oscar.
Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't think about that.
I have heard you talk about this a lot.
Yeah. Well, he didn't do his own singing, and he looks like Bugs Bunny. And it's also a movie where I never thought I would see a Freddie Mercury movie that not really talk about him being gay. So I think that's what I would run an ad on.
I would run an ad on Animal House.
Oh, yeah.
And tell people it's not funny. It's sophomoric, childish, and if you like this movie, you need to grow up.
Yeah.
It's time to grow up.
Yeah. I think your take on that, and some don't like your take on, is it Blade?
Blade sucks.
Yeah.
Terrible movie.
You've been embroiled in some Twitter controversy.
Yeah, he has.
Blade.
Yeah, he has.
Gremlins too. I caught some flack for that.
One.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got one like that's like a classic that I don't like or that I just don't get. Well, a movie, I would not run an ad on it, but here's an example. I think there are things like Monty Python that I didn't see as a kid with a group of people who loved it. So when I watched it, I was kind of like, I don't really get it. I don't feel that strongly about that one.
That's what Stoney is. He hates the original Star Wars.
Well, hold on.
Maybe I shouldn't say hate, but the acting's bad, you've said.
Careful.
I felt betrayed by Star Wars because...
And we're only talking about the original 3.
We're going on a tangent here, but I loved Star Wars as a kid. And whenever my nephew was born, he got kind of into Star Wars. And so Aura had never seen the original films. So I was like, oh, they're great. Let's sit down and watch all of these together. And when I rewatched them, I said, what is this shit?
Yeah, that's true.
I was an idiot. I was an idiot as a kid.
You just lost a segment of loyal listeners. I've
lost them a long time ago.
Okay, all right.
I will say, I think I could. There's a movie that people seem to love, and I think it's kind of gotten a reputation of meaning something. That, like, I get why you would kind of hold him up as like a sign of this, but I really think Scarface is very overhyped. Very overhyped.
I've only seen it. You and I watched it in like college.
Yeah,
and that may be the only time I've seen it.
Yeah.
It was another. There's things like, I agree with you. I felt that way
it's
too.
Very overhyped.
I've thought about rewatching it because even something like The Godfather, if you watch it just kind of in isolation without conversation with others who love it, it can feel like, okay. And I feel like Scarface is kind of that way.
You know what? I saw The Godfather in theaters when it came out. And
like when it released new.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Pacino was unknown. No, it was like 50th anniversary or something. I liked it. I'm like, you know what? This is like classic Hollywood mobster. I get why everybody's trying to be like it. I didn't get that from Scar. And it's not that like Pfeiffer, Pacino, like they're not good. I just didn't like, I don't know what the big deal is, but I would run an ad, a positive ad that would say, MacGruber is fucking funny.
I love MacGruber.
I haven't seen MacGruber. Speaking of, I may have a chance. Belcourt is doing a SNL universe thing. MacGruber may be one of them.
God, please do. Mark Henry's in it. That's all you need to know.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
I might take out an ad for Jaws and just warn people ahead of time. Just be like, hey, just so you know.
Hey, there's a shark
in this movie.
There is a shark in this movie.
If you're scared of sharks, do not go see Jaws.
Yeah. Do it for Shark Tale, too.
Yeah, maybe I will.
While you're at it.
Yeah. I'm imagining you with that, like the guy who sets up the sign that says "Change my mind," but it's you saying like some people don't like movies with sharks. Change my mind.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's a good question though.
Mickey 17.
Yeah.
Getting into some of the themes that the film explores, I wrote down a few of my favorite ones. One I haven't seen people really talk about a lot in the reviews, the discourse just yet, but this idea that, authoritarian tyranny, that sort of thing, it's not a physical thing confined to our planet. It is an idea that is allowed to breathe wherever it may go. So I thought that was kind of interesting because they basically take this authoritarianism to...
It's sort of like a horror film. Like it follows you.
Yeah. Obviously, like how the machine treats its most vulnerable citizens, taking advantage of them, that sort of thing. Painting what is unknown as evil and lesser than. With you talk about the creatures there, the creepers, as they were called. Creepers, you've already mentioned this one, Brandon. The elite's recklessness with life.
Yep.
Our past trauma following us wherever we go. Mickey carries us around, which is an interesting revelation because Mickey 18, in the final climax of the film, when they're going out to find the mama creeper. And this whole time we've been thinking, this is Mickey caused his mother to wreck. And then at the end, Mickey 18 kind of chimes in with, it wasn't your fault. Something like that. Something happened, malfunction with the car.
It wasn't the mother's fault. It was, yeah.
And so this whole time you realize that Mickey 17 has been internalizing this, regardless of what the facts of what actually happened were. He internalized it as my fault this whole time, whether he was innocent or not. And so I thought that was a really interesting exploration of that. And then with Timo too, literally the past comes back to get him. If you don't address your trauma, it'll come collect.
Yeah.
I also I think my favorite one in Mickey 17 and 18, we see different personality traits of what is supposed to be the same person theoretically. And I think it's symbolic of how those personality traits kind of bob and weave between us. And ultimately in this film, I feel like the balance wins out, where Mickey 17 probably, grows a pair, so to speak, but then Mickey 18 kind of is a little less rough around the edges, a little more human in his final moments, realizing what to do as the right thing to do. And I felt like it was that balance within us and sort of coming from a place of being centered is what ultimately guides us to what's right.
Can I ask you, and I asked Brett about this, and I've seen people, I literally saw something today, someone discussing this. So it's known, and Mickey 17 makes the comment about basically every Mickey has been slightly different.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But Mickey 18 does seem to be a little more
calloused.
Yes.
Cold.
Yes. And Mickey 18 basically helps 17 to kind of find his balls, right?
Yeah.
Now, we were talking where...
Put so eloquently, yes.
Thank you. We were talking because I thought, and someone else that was tweeted out today was kind of in the same thought process, that jump wasn't necessarily the natural progression, but that when the kid trips over the wire and then scurries to hurry up and put it back, that's what caused this jump to where Mickey 18 was not kind of the next phase.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up becoming where Mickey 17, like if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have Mickey 18. If it wasn't for Mickey 18, 17 wouldn't be who he becomes as Mickey Barnes in the end. So, but I saw someone who's like, I don't get why people aren't believing about Mickey 18. It literally happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So parts of me kind of feels like, yes, I think each Mickey was maybe slightly different, but I do think maybe they showed that not as just a carelessness of like, I don't care what's going on. I think that may have been a point to where, oh, this like 18 is far from what 17 was and what 18 probably would have been. But either way, I like that kind of like Robert Pattinson becomes Batman.
Yeah, kind of.
Like he ain't putting up with it. He's ready to get blood on his hands.
That's Mickey 19, Batman.
That's yeah.
But we did talk some about that. Whatever the reason, whether it's this kind of glitch that happens, or if it's just, I mean, Stoney, to your point, kind of this like we all have these different parts of ourselves, and over time they're changing and growing, and even just like stages of life, and the after version of the one who's just everyone's doormat says, I'm not doing this anymore.
But the one thing that I think sort of supports the glitch one is his Naomi Ackel is the actress, but his girlfriend Nasha is that it seems like, because remember they met when he was Mickey 1. It seems like he's basically been the same guy, but when she meets Mickey 18, it seems like it is a very different experience from just personality to all out, like kind of how he's talking to her. And I mean, just sexually giving her a thrill.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting symbolism in it too, and I can't take credit for this one because I did see this on, I don't remember if it was Twitter or Letterboxd or one, but how like the reprinting time and time again, like subconsciously, like the oppression over and over, kind of cracking to a point where it starts kind of leaking through to the next Mickey. Oh. And it's almost like a subconscious boiling to the surface of, and kind of symbolizing, not that Mickey 17 is outright calling for riots and revolution in the street, but it's like, this is kind of what happens the more you push, poke, and prod people.
Yeah, oh, that's a good one. I have not seen that.
From a symbolism standpoint, not like storyline, plot, or that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, but that makes sense. It's the same thing where it kind of gets into, it gets into that kind of disregard for life of how like precious it seems. And then by the fourth one, they can't even put the ramp. And I think one time he actually dies because there's nothing. He falls on his neck. Yeah. And so they just, one time he's actually alive and they still throw him in the damn thing because it's it. But I really liked, at the beginning, this question kind of comes throughout the film of what is it like to die? Everyone's asking him that. Mm-hmm. And each time it takes on a little more. It takes on a little more. And I think that's where that kind of humor kind of flows into, I think that kind of like every life is meant to be here. Like there should be nothing that is wasted or anything, anything of that nature. But I like where, it eventually asked that's when it kind of comes out where like he's scared and it hurts and but those are the things that no one else has even asked about, cares about, because it's just a guarantee he'll be back tomorrow and they're not thinking about that person. And I feel like that is, unfortunately, that is so much the case. And I think, in consciously, I think we're all guilty of that because you don't know what that other person is going through. Yeah. And I really like that question and how I felt like it it takes on a new meaning and it's more effective as it's asked as the story unfolds.
Did you have something to add to that, Brett? I didn't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say, I heard an interview that Bong Joon-ho did with Sean Fennessy, and as an aside on that, my favorite thing, because they were, for the podcast interview, they cut, I guess, some of the translator, but they would keep in Bong Joon-ho's part so that he could speak, and then you'd hear the translator speaking for him, and you just hear a lot of Korean, and then he'd say, Kevin Costner dances with wolves, like in the middle of that, like when he was talking about something. But he made the point that even those interactions with Nasha show this kind of pushback against, this is an individual. Like, even in their intimacy and all of that, you know, the things that are being banned, that they're like rebelling against that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
well,
showing
sex was going to be one of them.
This is an individual,
that's
that's interacting with Nasha, and not just one
not
more
just a
kind
copy of a copy of a copy.
That's right.
Copy.
Yeah. The last theme that I wanted to mention was something that you kind of touched on from I think it was the Vulture piece earlier. The
review from Allison?
Yeah, that there is still...
I know her, so...
Okay, good.
Thanks.
That there is still like a message of hope in this film.
Oh, yeah, that ends on a message of hope more than his other movies.
I think we get to a spot where we see Mickey presented as this literally expendable guy that they're killing every day, lives with this trauma. It's kind of not the sharpest tool in the shed, ended up in some bad situations, didn't make the best decision, and now here he is, and considered from the elites in this movie, the people at the top, so to speak, to just be this, nothing, nobody. But even through everything he's been through, like, we still see that he is worthy and deserving of love. And I thought that was kind of a powerful message. Like, no matter what you think of yourself, you still deserve that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And also that in that you kind of, even in like the deepest throes of turmoil and your future's uncertain, they don't know if they're going to survive this thing. Leaning on the people you love is sometimes the only thing that you really have. And there was a happy ending for Mickey 17 and ultimately Mickey Barnes. And I thought, the labeling of Mickey as numerical 1 through 17 values to the end, he's just Mickey Barnes.
I like that.
That was a nice little touch as well. But like the theme of, no matter what you think about yourself, you still deserve love. And in trying times, it is the ones you love that you really lean on. I felt like that was a pretty powerful, hopeful way to end on.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to mention it if you guys did, but I like that the opening title and then the end title. It's a nice. It was a nice moment.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, that stood out to me a lot too. That was probably my biggest takeaway. Is just a movie that on the surface, going back to you saying, did you get something different than what you thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
On the surface, it's a movie that is very reckless with life.
Yeah.
This idea of and I mean, I didn't think about this again until just a moment ago, but there's that scene midway through, the girl gets killed inadvertently.
Oh, yeah.
In that accident. Yeah. And I guess I shouldn't say inadvertently. Most people get killed inadvertently. But Mickey, they let Mickey get killed, obviously.
Yeah,
and
the wrong person died.
Yes, that's exactly right. The wrong person died. And they're distraught about that. Like, they're very upset by somebody that they see with value dying. Mm-hmm. But that theme that prevails at the end, that there very much is a value to life given in this movie that you probably may not have expected, kind of coming into what the premise was.
I would agree wholeheartedly. So I landed on a 4.5 out of 5 for this. This was, I liked it. I love, how did I put it in my notes? Reflection of the times in our art. I love that. I know, look, I don't think any of the themes, the messaging, any of that was like revolutionary. I don't think Bong Joon-ho was saying anything that had never been said before.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the satire. I like the searing critique of our society. I agree with that. And for me, I'm okay with something rehashing themes and rehashing ideas, if you can do it in, it doesn't even have to be a fresh new way, but if you can do something that's just entertaining and speaks to those themes, then I'm on board with it. And I really liked the sci-fi elements of it. I really loved the quirky humor elements of it.
Yeah.
I loved Robert Pattinson. I thought he was fantastic.
I'm amazed. I'm just amazed at what he's been able to convey. If you haven't seen High Times, if you haven't, not High Times, High Life and Good Times.
Good Times. Fantastic.
And now, I mean,
Lighthouse.
I never thought I would say that. He made a magnificent Batman.
Yeah.
I'm excited when it finally comes. Watch those and you'll see what I mean. And this one, and The Lighthouse especially, but this one, I never thought I would rave about a movie that had at least 2, 3, 4, much less 18 Robert Pattinsons in it.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it. And
yeah.
Now listen, it hasn't been a great year so far, but this is the best movie of the year for me so far. Again, not a high bar, but still. We talked about it on our Queen of the Ring episode, how the years kind of felt a little particularly dry compared to recent years even. This is the movie I've been waiting for. I would say this one and Sinners, Ryan Coogler's that comes out next. I feel like are like the ones that I think there's big excitement for it. But yeah, I didn't get to 4.5, but mine is definitely I gave it a solid 4 out of 5.
Well, my critique, what kept it from being a 5 out of 5 was just like there was an element of predictability to it. I think if you're watching it and you're kind of thinking, okay, well, if this is what he's trying to say here, and if this is going where I think it's going to go, then this is going to happen, and then lo and behold, this happens on top of a tank. And
it is more in a way straightforward.
Yeah.
There's that zaniness to it, and like I said, there is this tragic, definitely a tragic element to it, and just to kind of pal on your point, like. Yeah, like even if we're touching on the same things that his other English language films have done, I just don't think it's a bad thing. And I think
I don't either.
The IndieWire review guy, David, whoever, was kind of talking like I read a little bit of his review too, and I'm like, it's true. Like there are some things where listen, this is like it's like we had nothing new to say and we don't present it in a new way, then yeah, that's a waste of time. But I don't see Mickey 17 in that light at all. I don't think Bond did it that way. I think it's just a continuation, and whatever the next one may be, English or not, I'll be the first one to watch it.
Fair enough. Brett, any critiques of the film from your end?
I would just like to say I gave the film a review, and I've never changed it.
Yep.
I've always been consistent with what I said about it. I was actually confronted about this before we started.
Because I pay attention.
I did start with a 4, and I want, this is here's what I'll run an ad on Twitter about. I will run an ad on Twitter that Letterboxd needs to have quarter stars. Like 0.25, 0.75. Okay. Because 3.5 is a really solid movie. This is better than that. So I want to say this is 3.75. 3 and...
But what holds you back from a 4?
It's as I think...
Which, by the way, was initially your review.
It was, yes.
Or rating.
Here's the thing. I don't disagree with any of what y'all are saying. This is the best film that's been released this year that I've seen. I really liked it. I was really positive on all of it. Love the performances, those kind of things.
Did you see Queen of the Ring?
I have not seen that yet. Mick Foley told me it was good.
Okay, well, can't trust him.
He had a tooth in his nose when he said it, so that was a little bit questionable.
He might have been concussed.
Yeah. Yes. But the reason that I changed it a little bit is 4 to me is like you're all the way in, like in December I'm going to be thinking about this movie again. And I don't know that will be the case with this, but I have nothing negative to say as far as I love the movie. It was great, and I like everything y'all liked about it.
I am a big Pattinson fan, and I feel like that's what's going to keep me in. But I look at it like last year there was Civil War and Challengers pretty early in the year.
Yeah.
I saw those and they just kind of stuck with me. And I could see this being one of those films for me. I don't doubt that at all.
And that may be the case for me too. I may find that as the year goes on. I did hear Bong Joon-ho say that Good Time was one of the things he saw Robert Pattinson in that kind of opened in his mind, like, oh, he can do more than what we
Did you
know
see
him
Good
as.
Time?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
I think
man.
I think that was the case for audiences and Hollywood and like I really do. Like I can't remember, and I'm not saying he didn't do different stuff, but I really can't remember him in a film. And again, this is from the Safdie brothers who did Uncut Gems.
So I was about to ask
Good
if
Time,
you liked it.
Yeah, Good Time was the first one. Uncut Gems came after, but man, I watched it and I'm like I couldn't believe it. And then, like I said, High Life, and I mean Lighthouse. It's just like
The Lighthouse is like a completely different. I mean, he's going all over the place.
But some of it, like I kind of feel like he's kind of that, like he really kind of flexes what he can do in Good Time. It's not that he doesn't do it in The Lighthouse, but he is working off Willem Dafoe, and sometimes you don't get that Robert Pattinson performance without Dafoe.
Yeah.
This one to me, in Mickey 17, I mean, Pattinson's just, I mean, he's Ruffalo and them are great. I'm not knocking them, but I mean, Pattinson's cooking.
The performances are such that it's not difficult at all to believe these are two different people altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You don't even think about it.
But even kind of showing that kind of like his mind and where he's at with each kind of version. Mickey 17 has gone through a lot considering what we're kind of introduced to, and kind of like, within 5 to 10 minutes. But he's just he's really able to kind of bring whatever kind of internal struggle, anguish, torment, whatever. He's able to bring that out, but it's also done in like we've talked about, in this quirky, strange, oddball way. And listen, it all starts with Steve Buscemi and Fargo.
Would you put Mickey 17 on the Robert Pattinson Mount Rushmore?
Probably.
I haven't seen all of his, because I know, like, you recommended that I go back and watch Cosmopolis.
I do, but it's not a great film. He's good in it, and I think that's Cronenberg.
It is Cronenberg.
But I would probably say, just my personal favorite is it probably Good Time, Lighthouse, The Batman, and Mickey 17.
I think I'm going Good Time, The Lighthouse, Mickey 17, and probably High Life.
High Life was...
It's depressing.
It is, but
it's very
that's
depressing.
another sci-fi
flick,
but
it's not an easy watch.
No, and who's Juliette Binoche, who's in the English Patient and Chocolat.
Yep.
I'm really good at pronouncing things tonight. But yes, I did enjoy High Life. Better than I thought it would be, because I thought it'd be too weird.
Yeah.
And there's some parts, but
especially
what the whole premise is really about. But
there is one more thing that needs to be addressed.
What's that?
That responsibility goes to you as EIC to talk about your personal connection.
Oh,
to
yeah. No,
Mickey 17.
How you were able to identify with Mickey.
I was actually in the movie texting this to you guys. I'm watching the movie and texting you guys that I think my barber gave me Mickey 17's haircut last time I went. So
I mean, but it's Robert Pattinson. There are worse things you could go
That's
for.
true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's still a handsome man.
But
no
is
matter
it the
what.
haircut Mickey 17 is rocking, or that Mickey 18 is rocking?
No, it's 17.
Okay.
It's the 17
Well,
one.
that changed it. Yeah, well, that changed it a bit.
Not as flattering.
That changed it a bit.
So that's going to do it for us then. Unless you guys have any parting thoughts, Brandon, I'll give you the floor.
No, I mean, nothing having to say. I really enjoyed it, and it's made me think about it. A lot of times that a film has done its job when you're still kind of thinking about it a day or two after, and you're kind of still kind of linking things. And then, I feel like I could I could watch it tomorrow and probably find another kind of meaning behind a certain scene that I didn't on Thursday, but I can on a Monday. I mean, I feel like it's one of those. But yes, I mean, it is on the nose. I don't think, I mean, there's nothing really too subtle about it, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I feel like with a director like Bong, unapologetic is fine by me.
Brett, any final thoughts on Mickey 17 as we close out here?
It's great. Go see it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Brett,
Get Raisinets.
Are you pumping anything on social media these days? You want to shout out? You have any handles?
Yeah, I'll give my letterbox.
Yeah.
I think it's just BR Macintosh.
There you go.
Spelled like not the computer. No A in that Macintosh.
Brandon?
At Sir Brandon V on Twitter and Sir Brandon on Letterboxd. And before we leave, I'd just like to say, if McCash listens to this, he can kiss my ass. Toni Collette's a great actress.
Toni Collette is a great actress. I don't know. Well,
everyone go and read that Letterboxd review he put for Mickey. He gave it a 3, I think. But he I think it was maybe 2 sentences bashing Toni. You know why? Yeah. He's hated her ever since Hereditary.
He hates Hereditary.
Yeah, that's why. So
anything Ari Aster does.
Anything that's good, McCash tends to hate.
That's good, McCash doesn't like. That's it, yeah. Well, I'm at Stoney Keeley on Twitter, at Stoney Keeley on Letterboxd as well. You can check out all of our work for Nashville Movie Dispatch on Substack at nashvillemoviedispatch.substack.com. Subscribe to Nashville Movie Dispatch wherever you take in your podcasts as well. We're out in these internet streets. We ain't too hard to find. For Brett, for Brandon, I'm Stoney, and until next time, you stay classy, moviegoers.